Hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Laser and today we're going to be talking about the Corinth shotgun. With a mastery lock out of 10, this weapon doesn't only look amazing, but it can also pack a serious wallop. Please keep in mind that my builds and my guides usually take a more new player-friendly approach simply because there's a lot of information here that most of the time simply gets skipped over and I want to cover it. So veterans of the game, please bear with me. That being said, we're going to be discussing a cheap build, something affordable that everybody should be able to get their hands on as long as you meet the mastery requirement of 10. But we also have a ribbon to check out some endgame footage or some endgame potential for the weapon, like we actually have an endgame. But let's jump right into the Corinth. First thing we're gonna do is check out how the Corinth handles without any mods equipped. And I'm mashing my button right now. This is the maximum rate of fire. As you can see, it's not all that great. However, the recoil does line up quite nicely to the weapon's fire rate. So you're not gonna have to reposition your aim if you wanna hit a target in the same place. The alternative fire of the Corinth is called Airburst. It will launch a mini rocket that will explode after traveling a set amount. The problem with this alternative fire is that if it doesn't travel the set distance, if it stops in contact with an enemy or with a wall or whatever else, it simply won't do anything. The shells do apply status still, but the damage they would do without exploding is basically non-existent. So in actual gameplay, what you want to do is kinda aim above enemies' heads. So the explosion hits all of them and it does the damage. The damage of the explosion remains consistent throughout the entire area of the blast, so you don't have to try to get enemies kind of like in the center and all whatnot. It does the same amount of damage. And the last thing I want to point out before we jump into mods is the reload type. It's Stern style. It reloads shot by shot, shell by shell. So in situations where you just need one more shot to finish off that target, but you started reloading, you can interrupt early and continue firing what you reloaded. Definitely very useful when it comes to day-to-day gameplay. Now let's jump into the stats. Accuracy is 9.1, which is on par with the Tigris Prime. This is a fairly accurate weapon for a shotgun, again. Critical chance is 30%, which is very high. Critical multiplier, again, very high at 2.8. This makes the Corinth a crit weapon. Fall off is not so bad. Fire rate, as you saw, not that great. Magazine capacity does hurt this weapon a little bit at only 5, but we do have that interesting reload that does help it out. Reload is 2.3, but that is total reload. You're looking at about 0.7, something like that per shell. Riven disposition is 3 out of 5, which means the Rivens will be decent. Status chance is abysmal, only 12%, and this is not a status shotgun and it should not be modded for it. The damage the Corinth does is impact, puncture, and slash. Highest is puncture, second is slash. It would have been ideal if slash was highest, but there you go. Airburst critical chance is only 4%, again this is the alternative fire, and multiplier is 1.6. Very hard to actually get a full build for Airburst that will work against decent level enemies. The status chance, however, is pretty high at 28%, and as I told you, it deals blast damage, so it will crowd control enemies. Blast damage and impact. I have tried everything I could to make an Airburst build for this weapon. Long story short, it's simply not worth it, and it will not yield great results against decent level enemies. It still can one-shot levels 30s, 40s, something like that. So at lower level content, definitely you should be spamming an Airburst, not necessarily for the crowd control, but for actually killing the targets. At higher level, just for the crowd control. My mod capacity is 60, and you get this one by jumping into actions and installing an Orokin catalyst. You can get this one from alerts or from invasions. If you're really lucky, you can get it from the daily sortie. More often than not, I don't, and more often than not, I end up having to play 20 plat for it, which is a bit sucky. You'll see the number 5 here above the star. That means that this weapon has been formatted 5 times, but for the build I recommend you should be able to get away with only 3. Now, let's add some mods. As per the usual, the first thing we're gonna do is add flat damage. Starting with point blank. If you guys have prime versions of any of the mods that I recommend, then by all means, use your prime versions. We're not gonna stop here with adding flat damage, we're also gonna be adding Blaze. Blaze is a fantastic mod for shotguns. Not only does it add flat 60% extra damage, it also adds 60% heat, so it's definitely worthwhile on the Corinth. Next, we're gonna be adding multi-shot because this is a pellet-based shotgun, so multi-shot is extremely strong. Hell's Chamber is the multi-shot mod. It will add a 120% multi-shot, and it's a mandatory mod. We're not gonna stop there, however. We're also gonna add Vigilante Armaments, which adds another 60 multi-shot. Now, truth be told, 60 is a whole lot less than 120, it's half, but we do have the added benefit of the set. 5% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons, and on a crit pellet-based shotgun, that becomes a bit more important. Again, we're firing a lot of little pellets, and all of those pellets will have a high critical chance, making the set bonus a bit more relevant, not earth-shattering or something like that. Now, we did say that the Corinth is a crit weapon, so let's further amplify the crit with Blunderbuss. This is the crit mod for shotguns, and it will add 90% critical chance, and our crit chance has jumped to 57%, so that is pretty huge. We're not gonna stop there, however, with the critical chance. I'm gonna recommend a mod that most of you probably don't have. It's called Laser Sight. On headshot plus 120% critical while aiming for 9 seconds. This is not an expensive mod. You can get this one from the trade chat for about 10 plat. You're gonna be able to keep it up all the time in combat situations, simply because, again, you are firing a whole lot of pellets. The accuracy of the Corinth ain't bad either. So in all honesty, if you're half decently skilled, you should have laser sight buff up at all times, except when you enter combat for the first time. Now we got a good critical chance, especially when we keep up laser sight. What we need is some critical damage. We're gonna add Ravage. Ravage adds 60% critical damage, and to be perfectly frank with you guys, it's a bit underpowered. This is the critical damage mod for shotguns. If you can get your hands on primed Ravage, which will add 110% critical damage instead of 60, that would be a worthwhile upgrade. If not, don't worry, you can make do with the normal Ravage without any problem. And the last mod, which you probably saw coming, is Hunter Munitions, and this is how we're gonna kill our targets. We're gonna bleed them dry. We have a high critical chance, especially because of laser sight. Plus 30% chance to apply slash status to an enemy on critical hit, and we're gonna bleed them dry. In essence, that is what is going to happen. Now, you might be tempted to go for sweeping serration, more slash, like you would do for the Tigris Prime. Now, I'm not gonna bore you too much and show you 50 tests, but in testing, sweeping serration instead of anything didn't yield better results. So this is the build I'm recommending to you guys. This is a cheap and affordable build that mostly anybody should be able to obtain. Again, laser sight is fairly cheap. Do not pay more than 10 plat for it. Now, that's all well and good, but let's test out to see what the build can actually do. We're gonna be spawning in Corrupted Heavy Gunner, Bombard, and Lancer level 110. Because I want to have multiple layers to the test to exemplify multiple things. Now, the reason why I prefer Corrupted units to normal units is because they have larger health pools and more armor. Now, these guys should die in roughly 1 to 2 hits. 2 hits for you, 1 hit for you, another hit for you. You bled to death, goodbye. 1 hit for you. Are you gonna die? Yes, from 1 hit. This guy didn't die. That's weird. 1 to 2 hits maximum, and the targets will bleed to death. As you can see, the impact damage is not really all that high, but the bleeds is where you get your DPS from. Corrupted Heavy Gunners are tougher than Bombards, and these guys will not die in 1 hit. They will die in 2 to 3 hits. Let's do 1, 2, stop moving, then 3. And for you, let's go with 2. 1, stop moving, 2. When it comes to slash shotguns, there's really no way of getting around the elephant in the room, which of course is the Tigris Prime. However, the Tigris Prime applies its slash status through different means. It has a 100% chance to slash because of the 60-60 mods. Its inherent status chance is 30%, which is why we can do that with the Tigris, and you cannot do that with the Corinth. The Corinth applies its status chance through its crits and Hunter Munitions. Now, these guys are Lancers. You can one-shot them. I didn't spawn them for this. I wanted to exemplify what you can do with Airburst, and this is what Airburst can do. So, for example, maybe you are out of shots. Maybe you want to reload. So, you can knock them down, reload, then finish them off if you so desire. Definitely Airburst can provide some nice crowd control, and I want to see more weapons being fitted with something like this. And well, that's going to be the build. It's definitely not effective as something as the Tigris Prime, but let's keep in mind that the Tigris Prime does have a mastery lockout of 13, Corinth only 10. And now we're gonna take a look at a little bit of Riven gameplay. Now essentially the build is the same. I simply swapped out Blaze for the Riven, and mine has extra critical chance called an multi-shot. Obviously this will make a pretty noticeable difference. One last thing I should tell you guys, if you're a shotgun lover, if you like playing with shotguns, there's no reason not to have Arcane Tempo. On critical hit, 10% chance for plus 60 fire rate to shotguns for 8 seconds, and of course plus 1 arcane revive. This is a very cheap arcane. You can get the whole set, the R free, for as low as 50 plat, so there's really no reason not to buy it. Or if you don't want to buy it, if you don't want to play plat for it, the Terrorist drops it from Cetus. That is the first Eidolon, so it is fairly farmable. Now let's respawn these guys and go to town on them using the Riven. You're gonna be able to see quite the noticeable difference, but I really don't want to be misunderstood. This is not me saying go out and get a Riven. These things can be fairly pricey, and in all honesty, the Corinth doesn't need a Riven to be a kick-ass weapon, quote unquote endgame ready. As you can see, the bomb bars die a whole lot easier now, faster because of the higher impact damage, higher amount of slash, and well, higher slash count in general. So bye-bye, Heavy Bombard. These guys, however, were a bit more tougher, so we're gonna put 2 in their skulls, and I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on the Corinth in general. What a weapon, absolutely awesome. I love the way it looks, but that is a bit subjective. It is quite efficient at what it does. I have spent hours and hours testing all sorts of builds. I have tried full status. I have tried full crit with no slash. I have tried hybrid builds, definitely. Spent a couple of hours trying hybrid builds. And this is the type of build that proved the most effective. But by all means, you don't have to take my word for it. You can do a little bit of testing by yourself as well. I love the alternative fire on the Corinth. It is absolutely glorious, and it comes in so very useful. Overall, one hell of a weapon, and it definitely is worth to invest in it. It may not be the best slash shotgun around, but there is no denying its effectiveness. If you guys got any feedback for me, by all means, please leave it in the comment section down below. I would love to read it. If you'd like to request a build video on a specific weapon, once again, in the comment section down below, you have my word, I will read each and every comment. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye!